And I just want your comment, if you could, on one final story. News broke yesterday that The Atlantic's editor in chief was inadvertently involved or added to a group chat with top U.S. national security leaders about the U.S. airstrikes in Yemen against the Houthis. What's your reaction to that really explosive story?
Well, look, I find it interesting that this is from the same journalist that pushed a lot of fabricated stories about this administration. Also, too, interesting that they never point out that there is never any classified information shared on that Signal chat platform. And so I find this spin on this very interesting. But look, the Atlantic and how they've really represented themselves with this administration has not been 100% honest. Also, too, if you're really thinking about it from a national security perspective and they were so concerned about it, why are they posting now group chats on the internet? All of that should be called the question. But look, there is nothing classified sharing those conversations. Obviously, we saw very candid responses from the vice president and people involved. And frankly, I think the American people appreciated their honesty and feel the same way for many of their positions. So I back the president in this. I back what his decision is with now Security Advisor Waltz, who I know personally and has done great things as a veteran for this country. And we'll continue calling out the hypocrisy where we see it.
And they said that the airstrikes were successful, but Goldberg did write this. What I will say, in order to illustrate the shocking recklessness of this Signal conversation, is that the Hegseth post contained operational details of forthcoming strikes on Yemen, including information about targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and attack sequencing. If the White House, if you're saying, hey, this stuff wasn't classified, is that pushing him? Do you think he should then post the entire conversation? Do you think that would compromise national security at all?
Well, I find it interesting, right, that they're arguing that this stuff shouldn't be posted in a Signal chat, and then the Atlantic takes it and actually puts a huge story on it, which means they and themselves were skewing the information from the get-go. But yeah, the White House said that it was not classified information. I would argue that if you asked Pete Hegseth this information in person, he might tell you exactly what he thinks on these topics. And so I look at things from a lens of, did it hurt the American people? Was the strike successful? Was it classified information? But then also too, what's the spin on this? And again, you can see this from the get-go. Instead of leaving that group chat, this individual decided to stay in the group chat. They then collected information. They then decided to write a story on it, trying to imply that there was classified information where there wasn't, and then said that it was so bad that there was a group chat, but then they took this and presented it to the world stage. So I just think the whole thing's hypocritical.
And my final question, do you think Signal should be used at all then for any type of national security conversations?
Well, I think that there definitely needs to be encrypted messaging platforms. I would argue that we should probably work on designing one that's hardened, at least for members in Congress and then also the White House specifically, because we tend to be targets. As you know, in Eric Swalwell's case, he slept with a Chinese spy, but he didn't know, I guess, apparently at the time that she was a spy. And so, we're constantly being monitored and surveillance. And there are people that will try to collect data from members of Congress. So yeah, we need something. I actually will tell you that I don't have any issues with Signal personally. So it's definitely a topic of discussion right now for sure.
Well, Congresswoman, per usual, I always appreciate our conversations. I always appreciate your candor. Thank you so much
Thank
for joining
you.
me. You're welcome back anytime.
Perfect.